This concept quickly. If anyone in this room is looking for an instructor, a drill instructor, a sergeant or lieutenant to get you through this academy, get up and get out now. It's not going to happen. I'm not here to get you through the academy. That's not my function. It's not my job. My job is to place obstacles in front of you. It's your job to develop a process and how to get through those obstacles and move forward. My job is to make things uncomfortable. Discomfort promotes change, promotes better habits. From there, it's up to you whether you develop the self-discipline to sustain those habits moving forward. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
If you're looking from the outside, for outside factors to get you through this academy, do not come back on the 8th. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon and welcome to Fido Talk with Dave Thompson. On today's episode, I'd like to hit a little bit about complaining. Complaints. What do we do as a leader, as an influential teammate, when complaining creeps its way into the picture? We'll get into some perspectives on complaining. Is it habitual? Once in a while? How do we handle it? How do we handle it on our side? And maybe what ways to look at it from different perspectives. Before we get started, I just want to once again thank everyone who has been listening. The feedback's been great. The downloads have been awesome. I really appreciate all your support across the board when it comes to Bare Bones and Fido Talk. So again, thank you everyone for your support. And let's jump right into it. So when we talk about complaining, right? We all know there's certain people or small groups of people within our organization, team, workplace, professional life, whatever it may be, that are, get the label of the complainer, the bitcher, the whiner, whether that's deserved or not. In some cases it is, some cases it isn't. And I guess it can be broken down or looked at from, it's all about perspective, right? Somebody's bitching could just be somebody's talking point. But nonetheless, if you're in an appointed position of leadership or an appointed position of authority, how do you handle those things? How do you look at that? And how do you approach it moving forward? So a couple of things maybe to consider, right? Is it habitual? Is it a constant theme where there's always something to complain about? We're always focusing on the problems, always focusing on things that aren't perfect, right? Is it habitual? And when I mean problems, either like legitimate problems or perceived problems, because it's so much easier to point out the negative, right? It's so much easier to get up on a pedestal and point downward to the things that aren't 100%, right? So if it is habitual, how do you handle it? What's your tolerance? And do we set the example? And I say this because coming from a first responder industry or a first responder field, it's a high pressure career field, right? And there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of high pressure career fields out there. So once in a blue moon or once in a while, when even I feel myself complaining, and as soon as I catch myself, I'm like, damn, I hate that, right? I hate myself right now for being a bitch. And in conversation with a coworker, I mentioned that. Like, I hate that right now. But the response was, well, you got to get it out once in a while too, right? So that, I guess, is the flip side of the habitual complainer. It is kind of, okay, high pressure situations, not a lot of positives in in long stretches, right? And things just keep piling on, long hours, and not a lot of relatability outside of the workplace. Not a lot of people can relate to what first responders do. To get it off your chest, or something that's really, you just can't seem to work out within yourself, to get it off your chest, maybe somebody's just looking for a different perspective. Maybe somebody's looking for some validation that they aren't, out of line, or they, are on the right train of thought. So the person or people who once in a while throw a complaint out there, or a bitch or a whine, maybe there's something to that. And maybe they're just trying to work their way through it in terms of finding a solution. Now, whether it's finding a solution within themselves so they can work their way through it, or finding a solution to better the team or the organization. I think there's some legitimacy behind that. I think that's something certainly to consider. And if you are a leader, and if you, whether it's a looked at as a leader or an appointed leader, that's something you really need to take into consideration, right? When you know your people. But as far as the habitual people, the ones who make it their fucking job to just piss and moan and shit on everything, and everything's a problem, well, there's a couple of things that we need to emphasize when we're trying to deal with that, in my opinion, right? If I'm trying to set the example, and we're all humans, right? So we're not going to be 100% on point 100% of the time, 100% of the days. It's just impossible, right? So we accept that. We're not fucking perfect. But the constant bitching, it just focuses on the problem and not the solution. And we're in the solution business, right? We're in the business of creating solutions. The pessimistic outlook that creates, not only individually, it's fucking contagious, right? It grows like a cancer, and it just drags the morale, and it drags the others down, because if that's the only topic is the bitching, moaning, and complaining, and all the downside and the bad stuff, it just drags everyone down to that level. And it's easy, right? It's easy to get caught up in that shit. I don't care. It is so fucking easy. That's why the complexities of leadership are always going to require work. It's going to require work to set the example, to try to stay above the complaining, to try to promote the creative, reflexive thinking and challenge maybe some of the teammates or team members or people in your circle to come up with a solution, right? Let's come up with a solution. Let's figure this out. Let's do something or talk about ways in which we can get through whatever the subject is, whatever the point of contention is. Let's work our way through it. Let's stop sitting on our ass and let's get to work. Let's figure it out. Because some of the realities of life are that nothing is perfect, right? If we are in or going into or getting into a career, an industry where we have this certain picture in our own heads, these expectations of how things should be or how we want them to be, very rarely, if at all, ever, are those expectations met, right? And when they're not, and inevitably that's going to happen, when they're not met and we see it for what it really is, what the reality is in whatever industry, career, organization, department that you may be in, then the disappointment comes in. We can stay disappointed and, again, get wrapped up into the complaining, bitching, moaning, and the constant negativity. Or we can be creative, start using those decision-making skills and processes that we're trying to develop and come up with some solutions. Or a third option is to figure it out yourself, right? Keep your thoughts and your opinions to yourself. Because at the end of the day, we're not our thoughts. It all comes down to actions, right? We are what we do. We're not what we think, right? No matter what we feel or think, we're not that. We are what we do. If we complain, then we're a complainer. We're a bitch. If we come up with solutions and try to, create a atmosphere or a world where we can be challenged and hone our decision-making skills, our reflexive thinking skills, that's only going to help us individually. We become stronger individuals, we become a stronger team, a stronger organization from the bottom up. Like, that's how things grow. And if that team, organization, department, wherever you're employed or wherever you're involved in, if they don't see the value in that, well, it's definitely not the only game in town, right? If things are that bad where you find yourself the bitch of the team, the constant complainer, the fucking Debbie Downer all the time, I've never seen anyone handcuffed to a job, to a career. You, as an individual, are giving that place or that organization entirely too much control and power over you as an individual. The choice is yours and yours alone. If the complaints are so valid in your opinion that you're not being heard, constantly bitching and complaining and not being heard, and you probably shouldn't have any expectation of being heard, then maybe it's time to take your whatever your talents and whatever your beliefs that your talents are and go elsewhere, right? There on a professional level, on a professional relationship level, there absolutely should be no hard feelings whatsoever. Taking some of the emotion out of it as a leader and trying to, draw yourself back into kind of the cerebral, logical approach, in my opinion, will probably do you well in lessening the complaints, focusing more on the tasks, keeping your team, your teammates busy. In my experience, the individuals who seem to have the most time on their hands seem to be the ones that have or use that time to really nitpick on the negatives. If we stay busy and stay focused on bettering ourselves, stay focused on the objectives, keeping the overall mission statement or overall organizational goal in mind, the chance of us having the time and or energy to nitpick, complain, and be that team bitch will drop considerably. And again, that's just one man's opinion. That's just the way I see it. I don't know if the setting a goal for eliminating complaining, bitching, and whining, I don't know if that's attainable. My money would be on it's not. It's not a realistic goal or a realistic objective. I would say or suggest to take an individualistic approach by grabbing the individual who is complaining, bitching, and whining and counsel them, listen to them, have a little empathy, see what's going on, see if it's really a professional issue or is it a personal issue, whatever it may be. I'm not suggesting any type of coddling or, trying to justify their behavior or anything of that nature at all. But as a leader, listening is such an underrated skill. Listen to what they have to say and then reiterate some professional expectations, reiterate and let them know what they're contributing to. If it's, a poor work environment, complaining only, you're just shoveling shit on top of shit. That's really what's happening. And it's a huge contributing factor. Listen to what they have to say and maybe throw a test out there in terms of a challenge. Challenge them and pick one or two of their chief complaints, their biggest complaints, and ask for their solution, their realistic, tangible solution. And then follow up. Take that solution and see if you can run with it. Build some trust with that individual that you hear them. Their complaints are either going to be valid or invalid, right? I mean, there's no kind of two ways about that. But if the complaint, if it's a real issue, challenge them and then support them with whatever solution they come up with. It may work, it may not work. But under no circumstances, if it's the habitual complainer and it's evident that they're bringing the team or the environment down, in my opinion, should that be tolerated? It definitely just shouldn't be tolerated. Now, if I don't have any appointed rank or any appointed authority, and I'm just somewhat of an influential teammate or influential employee or something along that line, I may have to work with people. I absolutely do. 100%. I also don't feel though I am obligated under any circumstances to make a complainer, whiner, or a bitch feel welcome or comfortable. I don't feel like that is my obligation to do so. As far as maintaining a neutral professional relationship, absolutely 100% across the board. As far as anything beyond that, entertaining any type of small talk, any type of engagement that may lead to the inevitable bitching, whining, my opinions, what I think of this, that, and the other thing, I'm probably going to shut it down. I'm probably not going to engage it. And I'm going to try to continue to do and set an example where we make the best of the shittiest situations, because that's the best that we can do. The situations are going to be the situations. How we react to the situations, our actions are going to define us. They're going to define us as individuals, and they're going to define us as teams. They're going to define us as teams, shifts, organizations, departments, agencies, across the board. Our actions are what's going to define us, right? At the end of the day, no one really gives a shit about our feelings and beliefs. Does that drive us individually? Yes, it does. But the reality is we are not those things. We are not our beliefs. We are not our feelings. We are not those things. We are what we do. So, in closing, if we are leaders, influential teammates, and there is a complaint from somebody who very rarely complains, there might be some validity to that. They may need to get it off their chest, blow off some steam. I think that's important. I think that's important to engage in that. Even for a few minutes, I think it's important to engage in that. From an individual who that would not be the norm. For the habitual, the day-to-day complainer, whiner, bitcher, I think a call-out, a challenge, and when I mean call-out, I mean take them aside individually we always want to try to praise in public and punish in private, right? So we would call them out in terms of pulling them aside, challenging them, and see where it goes from there. How many chances? I guess that's individual to individual. Me personally, not many at all. I would have a low tolerance for that. But that's it today. That's my 2 cents on complaining and where we are these days with it. There seems to be a ton of it. And again, when I find myself slipping into that, I truly, truly fucking hate it. But it's a reality. And I think it's something that shouldn't be swept under the rug. It's right in front of us. And I think it should be addressed. And as influential teammates, as leaders, frontline leaders, I think it's something that certainly can be addressed at the lowest levels, for sure. But that's it for this episode of Fido Talk with Dave Thompson. Again, I appreciate all your support, and I look forward to engaging you guys here in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and always looking forward to your feedback. Thanks again, everyone. And as always, fuck it. Drive on. I want to thank everyone for listening to this week's episode of Fido Talk with Dave Thompson. If you would, please subscribe and review. It helps a lot. Share the word with your friends and family. Have them check it out and provide some feedback. We'd love to hear it. Check us out at barebonesleadership.com for the latest blog and different perspectives on everything leadership. Follow us on the gram and on our newly updated Facebook page. Share your comments, your thoughts, your reviews. Any and all feedback is always welcome. And don't forget, keep kicking those fucking doors in, and as always, Fido. I appreciate you guys listening. Take care, and see you next time.